Listen, every contractor I know has made this mistake where you hired someone that you deep down knew that you shouldn't have. Maybe they looked good on paper, but there was one or two things that weren't quite right. And you hired them anyways, and then 90 days down the line, you got to let them go. Or what if there was a client that did the same thing? You had this client, it was a big job, you wanted the money, you needed the money, and overall, looking at it on paper, it looked good, but there was one or two things that were, maybe not. And then you get the job and just, it goes crazy. It's a mess. And maybe the client isn't happy and leaves you a bad review. And the reason is that there were signals there that you ignored. And what I want to do in this video is I want to teach you my framework for being able to define how we actually make these decisions. You know, if you follow me for a while, I talk a lot about sales and marketing. But to me, I think that this is one of the bigger things that any business owner needs to know. They need to have a decision-making matrix. And so my promise to you is if you stick with me to the end, I'll guide you through mine. And at very worst, you'll have some insight into how to make some better decisions. And the best, maybe you adopt this system and use it for yourself. Okay, so listen, the biggest problem with the way that most people make decisions is there's either a yes or a no. It's either I'm going to do this or I'm not. It's pass or fail. But decisions are rarely black and white. They're rarely that defined. It's not ones and zeros. It's not black and white. Life and business and relationships, they're just not that simple, and they require some nuance. And there's times where we need to say, it depends. There's times where we need to have a little bit of a caution, a little bit of analysis. And when we do that, and we can apply it and create a system, a rubric, if you will, that we can apply to every kind of decision that you have to make, all of a sudden, we make better decisions. Those hires that you bring on, they have a more likely chance of sticking with you. Those clients that you decide to work with, there's a more likely chance of success. The marketing channel you want to go with, there's a more likely chance that it's going to work too. This works for literally everything. This is a universal decision-making matrix. With that said, let's jump in. Okay guys, I call this decision-making matrix the traffic light system. And it's something that we use in our company. Every person in our leadership team knows it, and we preach it, and we talk about it and use it daily. And here's how it works. Let me ask you this question. If you're driving down the road right now, and you're in a city, you're not an interstate, you're like in a city where you'd actually see some traffic lights, and you're driving and you see a green light, what do? You keep going. That's a pretty obvious one. What about if you see a red light? What do? You stop, right? You see a red light, you stop. That's also pretty easy. Let me ask you this. What do you do if you see a yellow light? Okay, we've got more things to consider here. It's not an easy go or no-go situation. I have to think about, what kind of car am I driving? Am I driving a big 4x4 that weighs a lot, or a semi-truck, or am I driving a small car that can stop closer? Are my tires good, or am I letting them wear down to the end? Do I have kids in the car? What's the traffic conditions around me? How far away from the light am I? How fast am I going? What about how rainy it is outside? Is it dry, good roads? What if it's rainy and slick? All of those things, and probably a whole lot more. Maybe even the guy that's on your bumper right now. You slam on the brakes and let him hit you. Like, what do? All of these things around it are going to be part of your decision. And you do this in a split second. We all make these choices every day as we drive, and we don't think about it, right? But we did at some point. And universal truths, as we've learned things around driving, have made this, where green means always go, red means always stop, and yellow means caution. It doesn't mean stop or go. It means think about the conditions and then make the appropriate action. That's what it means. And that's what this is going to actually do, right? The insight here is that the easy yeses stay easy, and the clear no's stay no. But we gain a system in how we can stack and define yellows so that we can make better decisions. So listen, most decisions, like bringing on a new customer, hiring this person, making a budget decision, whatever, they're not normally judged by just one metric or one key factor. They're normally made up of a bunch. Like when you're hiring, you're looking at resumes and skills and experience and recommendations. There's a lot of different things that you're looking at. And if you're bringing on a new customer, there's how far away are they? How big is the job? Are they decent to deal with? What's the budget? What's the timeline? What are the expectations? All these other things and plenty more. And so there's lots of different individual filters. So here's how we apply this to everything. I'll use, as an example, I'll use appointment setting. So if someone calls in your contracting business and you have an appointment setter on the phone, whether your office admin handles it or you handle it or there's a service or whatever, right? Someone is answering the phones with the understanding that their job is to educate and ultimately qualify and book appointments that are qualified. That means that you have to have a standard. If someone wants a whole remodel on a house in 2 days, it's not practical. If someone wants a roof on a really large house and they only got $5,000 when it might be $20,000, it's just so far disconnected that's not probably worth it. And so we have these individual things that we have to gauge in this decision-making process, right? So let's just take a couple basic ones. And this would apply to pretty much any contracting job. Location. How far away is it? Okay, so let's define how we take this one rubric. We got the whole thing of appointment setting. And we're going to take a few different individual things that we need to gauge, and we're going to apply red, yellow, or green to each one of them. So let's think about location first. Okay, you probably service at least a 30-mile radius from wherever your office or home is. Most home contractors do. Okay, so let's just say for this example, we do service inside of a 30-minute drivable radius in any direction from our home. Okay? So if someone calls in and they're inside of that, that's a clear yes. Clear. Now, I'm sure that if you were 2 states away, maybe even 2 hours away, that's probably red for you. So let's just say 30 minutes is a green. Anything in 30 minutes is absolute yes for this one metric. And 2 hours or more is a hard no, no matter what. I wouldn't necessarily say no to 35 minutes away or 45 minutes or even 60 minutes away, because maybe the job size is really big. So this is my maybe zone. This is my yellow or consideration zone. So inside of 30 minutes, it's a green light. Outside of 2 hours, it's red. And inside this zone, it's orange. It means pause. Now let's hold for that for a second. That's location. Let's talk about type of work. Let's say we're talking about a painter that does interior and exterior painting, standard painting. And these guys want some sort of specialty paint, like a European paint. That might be a no. Yes, they paint, but they don't do that kind of paint, right? Maybe you're a roofer. You do shingle roofs, but you don't do terracotta tiles. Maybe. So we have to have in our service offerings, these are the things we absolutely day in, day out do. This is a yes. This is a green. We have other things that are absolutely not, we don't know anything about that. It would be stupid for us to do it. And then we have considerations where we don't do that often, but for the right project and the right conditions, we can. That's your yellow. Okay. So now let's talk about the next. Let's talk about budget. And you may or may not go over budget in a calls, and that's okay. We're not talking about, it's not a sales video in this example. So let's just assume for now that you do try to understand a loose budget. Okay. And you ask them, what's your ballpark budget for this? And let's just say we have, based on what they told you about the job, there is a green zone where we know that this is absolutely a healthy enough budget. And there is a red zone where it's like, there's absolutely no way we could get that done, right? Like probably a $10,000 job and they got $1,000. It's just so far disconnected. It's an absolute no. But what about the assumption it's probably going to be worth 10 and they've got an 8,000, 9,000 budget? We might be close enough, maybe. Okay. So again, we're just defining each of these individual things that we need to gauge with either green, yellow, or red. And in our systems, when we're working with contractors, we actually sit down and say, here's your appointment setting system. What are the things that matter to you? And location and price and timing and job type, personality type of the customer on the other end or potential customer on the other end. These are normal things. So we take each one of those and we just have them defined. We work with them and say, what are the greens? What are the hard no's, the reds? And then what are the things in the middle? Now here's where it gets really fun. Once we've defined all that, let's just say someone comes in and for location, it's a green. For type of work, it's a green. For budget, it's a green. For timing, it's a little bit yellow. They want it a little faster than we normally can get it done. And their personality type is a bit aggressive, so it's a yellow for us. Okay, what do we do? This is where we have our consideration. So the way that we use this rubric is if everything is green, it's a clear yes. We move forward. If we're talking about appointment setting, we book appointments. If we talk about sales, we close them. If we talk about hiring and they check it's all green, we hire them. Almost no one does. Now, the way that we use reds is, let's just say we have 4 greens and we have 1 red. It's a hard no. Hard no. There is no consideration. There could be 4 amazing greens and 1 red. It is absolutely a no. Because we've defined that this one thing, it's a no. Let's say that location, we're outside of that 2-hour part. Between 30 minutes and 2 hours is the yellow zone. We'll consider it. But 2 hours now, it doesn't matter how big it is. It doesn't matter how cool the client is. It doesn't matter. It's a no. We've defined that. And so basically what happens here is you take an area of your business and you say, these are the things that matter. And then you put on a column, here's my greens, here's my yellows, here's my reds. And then when you make decisions, if it's greens, we go forward. If there's any red anywhere, you stop and you say no. That's it. It's a no. It is a stop. And then when we get to yellows, let's say I have 4 greens and 1 yellow. I'm going to move forward, right? Personally, I'm going to move forward with that. There's not enough of those cautionary things going on or stacking up. So I'm going to go forward with it. I will keep going. What happens if we have 1 green and 4 yellows? Ooh, I'm going to say no to that one, right? That's just too many things that are stacking up in the favor of that, right? I don't like it, and I'm going to say no. Now, you'll have to do some due diligence here, and this is going to be up to you to decide, but what do you do if it's 2 or 3 or 4, right? And maybe you have more than 5 decision-making measures. I'm just using that as an example. But when the percentage of yellows get high, we probably are going to stop. If there's just 1 or 2 or 3, or a small percentage of them, we're probably still going to say yes. And you'll have to define that threshold. So to summarize, green isn't always yes. 1 red in any area of your judgments or your judgment criteria is a no. Doesn't matter which one. It's a no. And if we have oranges, we just need to figure out how many oranges are you willing to deal with. And it might be different for different areas. You might not have willingness to deal with any in hiring, but maybe 1 or 2 in appointment setting. It just depends. So this is how we actually stack it. Now let's apply this to hiring. Same kind of thing. Okay, we've got a resume, job experience. They have the ability to do. They got transportation. They've got, green card or ID or whatever. They're legally able to work. They're available to work soon. It's not like they're looking for a job for 6 months down the road. They've got good recommendations. All of these things are great, right? It's all fantastic. I hired that person. What if they have all of the things that they need, except they don't have any legal documentation? That's a red, right? You'd be breaking a law if you tried to hire that person that they don't have any paperwork or ID or any legal ability to work in the country. That's a red. That is not a yellow. There's nothing to that. And occasionally some metrics like that, it's either a yes or no. Most metrics, there's going to be a yellow. Well, what about if they've got green on everything, except they don't have any recommendations of any kind? Well, that would be like a yellow, right? Maybe it's not like a bad recommendation. You see what I'm saying? So it's like we have a weighted scale here. What about if they have a great personality, they've got the right experience, they've got all of the other things, but the amount of experience that they have? Maybe you were hoping for someone with 3 years and they only have 1 or 2. That's yellow for me, right? It's just barely off, so it's yellow, and I would consider that. But let's just say we got someone that's got less experience. It's in a slightly different kind of trades, close, but it's not quite there. They have no recommendations. They don't want to start for 2 or 3 months, and you're looking for someone to start in a week. That's too many yellows now. We're going to say no to that person because we have too many of them stacking up. Okay, so we just went through a couple examples of how to use it, right, with some example criteria. Let's talk real quick about how you make this your own. The first thing is you're going to pick the department or area or function in your business, right? If it's appointment setting, It's like, what are the things that I'm going to judge the criteria on from that person on the other end of the phone? I'm going to list those things down. I'm going to list each of the standards that I need to judge, right? And so you could very easily do this in like a document or a spreadsheet. Say, here's this standard. Here's the green column. Here's the yellow column. Here's the red column. Standard 1, standard 2, standard 3, standard 4. Again, I'm using appointment setting, but it could be anything. And so now what you want to do is in that green column, what is yes? Define it. Talk about it. Put a sentence. Put bullets. Whatever it is. Just define it in your words for your company, and you put it there. Define the hard no's. So we got division of this thing, standard 1, here's the green, here's the red, and then what's the yellow? Standard 2, here's the green, here's the red, here's the yellow. You need to define what it looks like in plain language. Ideally, so like a middle schooler can read it. We don't want to use conflated words. We don't want to use really long, crazy sentences. We want to be super clear, very non-negotiable, very easy to understand type verbiage. And now what we do is after we have that, at the end of it, you would want to say, if it's all green, we're good. If there's any red anywhere, we stop. And if we have X amount of yellows, we're still good. Anything more than that, you need to stop. And you define that. So now we've taken each thing and defined what every standard that we're looking at judging is green and yellow and red. Then we say, how many yellows are we willing to deal with? All greens is an obvious yes. Any red is an obvious no. And yellows, we define exactly how many in that one area for it. Now, when you do this, not only will you, for the decisions that you're making, be consistent, but it also allows us the framework to help hire and put someone else in that seat. I can't tell you how many times I've had a contractor say, hey, there's appointments that are booked this job that probably shouldn't have been booked. Well, did you have this system? Did the appointment setter know those thresholds you want or don't want? And if you didn't build that for the person, we don't know. You can apply the same logic to the quality standards of your job, like your QC walkthroughs. You can do it for the project setups. You can have it for the hiring. It doesn't matter what kind of what part of the business you're in. Every single aspect of our business has this criteria. We have this green, yellow, and red for everything. Okay, guys, so this system is all about defining what's good, what's bad, and what needs consideration. And, we need to know what we're going to say yes to. We need to know what we're going to say no to. And we need to have some guidance on how we're going to consider and how many of these yellows we would actually consider. Listen, if we stack enough yellows, might as well be a red. And that's the point. So what I hope you would do is you'll follow this. You'll apply it to your business, create some documents, sit down on Google Drive, and just get this done. Take the time and actually lock it in and define it. So look, if this was helpful for you, I'd love it if you would like, share, follow, all that kind of fun stuff. Comment below if you need any help or have any questions. In the description below, we're going to put a link to book a call with our team. So if you want to talk with me or my team, there's a link in there to book. It's a free strategy session, no strings attached. Just kind of jump into your business, see where you are, see where you want to be, see if we can give you any guidance on how to get there. And there's also going to be a link for what we call our scale auditor. It's an online quiz that you just fill out. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes. You fill it out with some things in your business, and it'll give you a 12-month roadmap of exactly what you need to fix to grow your business and get you to that next level. So thanks for following. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you hanging out with me. See you in the next video. Take care.